I'm ready.
Ready?
Yes.
Hey guys, it's Ryan
And Jessica.
coming to you from
El Salvador.
So for those who don't know, we are Ryan and Jessica. We
Hi.
are from Canada, and in July 22 we got married, and then a week later, after selling everything, we hopped on a plane, one-way ticket, and we moved right here to beautiful Bitcoin country, El Salvador.
Yep.
Yes, and let me tell you, it's been an adjustment,
Definitely has.
particularly with the heat. We were cautioned about the heat, but the past few days have been insane with feels like temperatures in like the 45 degrees, 42 degrees, more than we're accustomed to say the least. Yeah, it's been intense. So today, 20 questions.
All right.
Yes. 20 pregunta.
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 All right.
Yes. So we received an email from Turkey. And by the way, everyone in Turkey, we hope you're doing well, what with the earthquake and all. Yes, best wishes to you. We understand some Salvadoran rescue workers just returned home from Turkey, and we hope they did good work. Yes, okay. So we received this email, and it contained a long list of questions, all of which were fantastic. And we thought, you know what? These are relevant to everybody.
Yeah.
So
we get a lot of these questions.
Yeah. So rather than like type a reply, why don't we like just do a
video
so that everyone can have answers to these questions?
Okay.
We cover things like logistics of moving, the El Salvadoran culture, law in El Salvador, lots of great stuff if you want to build a house, things of that nature. Yes, but to start, I wanted to touch on the overwhelmingly kind words that these folks from Turkey said. They said some things. They said, we appreciate your kind encouragement for folks who are timid about making such a huge move. We really, really believe you're literally changing mindsets and lives, and that what you're doing is actually a pretty big deal.
Oh, that's so nice.
That was really touching and heartwarming to hear that. Thank you. Because we were quite timid about making such a big move in Canada, and
Most
we had
definitely.
some help finding the courage as well. So it's great to know that that's being paid forward. So thank you so much, you guys. Appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. 20 questions.
All
Ready?
right.
All right, let's jump in.
Let's go.
All right. Question number 1.
All right.
Is there a limitation on what foreigners can purchase in terms of real estate? Like apartments, or can we own land too? There are no limitations on what you can purchase. You can buy an apartment or rent one. You can buy or rent a house. You can buy a house, and you can buy a piece of land. From what we understand, though, that land use is somewhat more strictly governed for foreigners. So, for example, a foreigner can't come into the country, buy up a bunch of farmland, and convert it into condominiums. So you might want to look into that if you're planning on starting something like a multi-dwelling complex or something like that. But apart from that, if it's single use, single family, I don't think you have to worry about much.
No.
Yeah, no.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So, question number 2. How easy is it to find electricians and plumbers and builders and such? We do expect to do a lot of the build ourselves, so they're building a home here or wish to, but they say they're sure they can't handle it all, and so they'll need some contractors. You know what? In this neighborhood right now, there's houses going up everywhere. There's houses being renovated. There's houses being remodeled. And all of that takes electricians and plumbers and builders. So they're definitely around.
Yeah.
We're not doing any of that ourselves just yet. But I don't know.
Hopefully in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And just come to think of it, with the speed at which El Salvador is growing and developing, there might actually be some scheduling delays and a bit of a shortage of workers. So you might find your schedule set back a little bit.
Yeah. I know that our friend Regina, she's in the process currently right now of building a house, and she has told us many stories with her experiences.
Yeah. You have to know who you're hiring.
Yeah.
And be sure you find someone who's honest and trustworthy. Yeah. So, because there is a previous era that still lingers in El Salvador. So, you got to be sure of who you're bringing on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So, tres.
Question 3. What is the internet infrastructure like? Yeah. You know what? We've had no problems.
No.
As far as national coverage, I imagine in the remote areas you might need something like Starlink to get you connected. But down here along the coast in the city, it feels like any other country.
Yeah.
We have fiber optic internet here. It's much cheaper than Canada.
They come on time.
Yes, that's the other thing. Yes, when you call an internet guy in Canada, they say they'll be there between 1 and 9. But when they say here they'll be there at 2, they show up at 2 o'clock, and that's really something.
Yeah.
So, but as far as like outages and whatnot, we've only had one day where we didn't have internet, and it was because the wind took down a tree, which took down a fiber optic line.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's been reliable and fast, and it's been no problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Question pregunto numero 4. See? So this is about building. Are there any innovative techniques being used, or would we be able to import the tools we need to build using aircrete, airform, and such? So it sounds like you guys want to build like one of those concrete dome homes. Continues, is there any 3D printing for building? Do people use other building methods such as cob and earth bag?
I mean, I haven't seen any. I mean, there is one. It's a shipping container home that's going up just over there in our community. I don't know if the idea has come to El Salvador as of yet.
Yeah.
It's pretty much your standard traditional like concrete homes, because there's no real need for insulation or anything like that, because it's
so warm,
so freaking hot here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so like we in Canada had explored a number of sort of unconventional building types. We looked at earth ships, we looked at cob and bag homes, we looked at shipping container homes. We eventually settled on an Eastern European style A-frame home, and we became quite serious about that and about building that. We even bought the land before everything in Canada turned into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll save that for another video on Odyssey. Yes, and we had been planned to continue that down here, to carry that idea down to El Salvador. But lately we've been thinking about it, and we're not sure which way we're going yet, because a Northern European, Eastern European style home, or something that's kind of radical and unconventional, it's kind of counterculture down here. It would, it might amount to kind of imposing our culture onto the local culture by creating the structure that isn't representative of the local culture.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if there's any people in the comments who are either living here now or are from here, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Would you mind having an A-frame
Yeah.
next door, or?
Yeah, like an A-frame home, or even a shipping container home, or something very different.
Wacky?
Yeah, like something wacky, yeah. So, yeah, if you're Salvadoran, let us know what you think, because this has been on our minds lately.
Yeah,
for sure. Okay. Oh, yes, and we haven't seen anything like 3D printing for building. No, we haven't seen anything like that. Okay. Question number 5. Yes, okay, so this is about moving stuff from outside the country into the country. Are there any limitations on imports via internet shopping from places like Amazon or Best Buy, such as anything over a certain limit is taxed? And if so, what are the limits and what are the taxes imposed? Yeah, well, we don't have specifics for you there because we don't do that. We don't use Amazon.
We never really used Amazon when we were in Canada either.
True enough, yeah. Well, sometimes. But here, you pay so much taxes at the border that it's really not worth it, and you're going to be waiting for your item for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Friend of ours, James from Nikki and James in El Salvador, hello, recently ordered it's like a small piece of electronics called a Raspberry Pi, and ended up paying 3 times the price once it was all taken care of at the border because he ordered it on Amazon. So probably not the most economical way to get things. In fact, there are some people who make regular trips back and forth from the US to El Salvador and vice versa. And these folks, they'll like rent out bag space to people who need things shipped so that they can just take it in their suitcase to San Francisco and mail it from there because it's so much cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, Amazon, you can get it. It's possible, but it's not practical at all. Yeah. Yeah, and it's because of all those fees and taxes and whatnot that get heaped on. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, with that said, this is a modernizing country. That what we just described probably won't be true forever. Yeah. Okay. Question 6.
How about importing our household goods if we want to ship them
Okay. So I assume this means like sofas, couches, TVs.
Yeah, I would imagine, like, I guess the bigger stuff. With regards to sofas and couches and furniture and bedding and all that stuff, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. Like, I mean, first of all, that's extra money in your pocket when you're on your way down here. And second of all, there are tons of furniture places that you can get furniture.
And furnished apartments.
And furnished apartments.
Yeah.
So where are you gonna stack all that extra furniture if you decide to first rent an apartment here that already comes with everything?
Yeah, you're going to end up paying more to ship your existing household goods than if you just replace them once you get down here. An exception to that might be electronics, though.
Yeah.
Electronics are unusually expensive here. Like we knew about that before we left, and we brought our computer monitors, our laptops, all the cables, keyboards, mouse, all the electronic things that we would need for our jobs. We brought all that with us because we were told that replacing that would be more expensive. So we actually brought an extra bag just for that stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I guess unless you wanted, like, unless you had, like, an heirloom chair passed down by from an ancestor or something, maybe you could.
Something irreplaceable.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. It's worth it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, question 7. Is CBD oil legal there? Yes, I think we've seen billboards for like CBD infused creams and whatnot for like joint pain and muscle pain and whatnot. And we've also seen the products themselves on shelves, so it's reasonable to conclude that they must be legal.
Yeah.
But recreational cannabis is not really.
It's frowned upon.
Yeah, it's a very dim view.
Yeah.
Both legally and culturally here. So. But yeah, if you want to find like CBD, like face creams and whatnot, you can find that kind of stuff down here, I believe. Yeah. Yes. So, question number 8. What is crime like now? This is a big one. They ask, has it disappeared completely or are murders finished, but petty crime is still lingering in the background? Are there things such as thefts, home invasions, muggings, etc.?
Well, I would imagine that it's like any place you go in the world. Like, there's no country in the world that I'm aware of that has zero crime, zero petty theft, murder, anything like that. So
not even Singapore. Yeah.
It's definitely still a thing, but it's not. It pales into comparison compared to any other place.
Yeah, we did hear
Would
a
you say?
story recently. Yeah, I would say. We heard that story recently about the guy who tried to assault someone and rob them on the city bus out. I think it was out east. And the people of this country are so fed up with crime and gangs that the passengers on the bus swarmed this guy and prevented the crime, prevented the assault, ended up putting him in the hospital where he was later arrested, and it was found that he's a member of one of the gangs, and he'll probably go to prison for the next 30 years. So this was an attempt at a petty crime, at an assault and theft, and it turned into a 30-year prison sentence, we think. So that gives you an idea of the direction things are going with crime in El Salvador. There's the people here are fed up with it, and they're not going to put up with it anymore.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. We also heard that story about that person who lost their phone. Remember Oscar was telling us?
I think so.
So someone dropped their phone, and when they called it, after they noticed they didn't have their phone, a local picked it up, and she had her phone returned. So this was an expensive late model Samsung, and when she lost her phone, she was able to dial it, get a local, and have her phone returned. So, previous era, you used to carry 2 cell phones, one to give to thieves and another to actually keep. But now you can have your phone returned if you drop it on the ground. So that's another indicator, I'd say. Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Continuing on the crime vector, question number 9. What is the government planning to do with all the gang members they have arrested? Will they remain in jail indefinitely? Will they be released? What do the locals think will happen? Yeah. So the locals are fed up, as we were just saying. Our understanding is that if you're over 18, it's a minimum 20-year sentence just for gang affiliation. If you're affiliated with a gang, 20 years. just out of the gate like that. Now, it gets even longer if you were involved in any violent crimes. So to me, that says the strategy is to keep the gang members behind bars until they're much too old and feeble to get up to any more trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they just built a massive state-of-the-art supermax prison that can hold many thousands of these prisoners in a very secure, very sophisticated way.
Yeah.
So we are confident, and more confident, especially since the day we arrived, that the gang problem in El Salvador is winding down.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay.
All right, question number 10. Bukele says that the government values freedom. Does this reflect in the actions of the country and their policies? We can't comment too much on the policies here. We have to be careful not to meddle in local politics, both out of respect and of requirement of our permission to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we can say this. The people who were subjugated by the gangs are now free. And it was the state that stepped in to protect those freedoms.
Yeah.
And furthermore, by making Bitcoin, which is an unconfiscatable, uncensorable, hard asset that no one can manipulate, especially not a government, legal tender in El Salvador, the government effectively took its own power and gave it to the people of El Salvador.
Yeah.
Distributed its power among the people, thus increasing their freedom. So that's a pretty big step, and it's also not a reversible step. Once the adoption here is quite high and everyone's using Bitcoin and in custody of their own Bitcoin, the government can't ever take that power back. So that's a pretty big move for freedom and liberty in El Salvador. It's a big part of why we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we think that it's quite sincere. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All
No,
right.
definitely.
Awesome. Okay, we're motoring through these questions. Yeah. Okay, so question 11. What are Salvadorans like as a culture? Are they non-confrontational? Are they religious? Are they jaded? Or are they hopeful and joyful? Are they artistic? Do they like music? Are they friendly and helpful? Or are they closed-minded? Is there an energy of renewal and newfound hope after the removal of the gangs from their lives? Just trying to get a gauge on the hearts and minds of the Salvadoran people. What do you think?
I definitely think there is, there's two that stick out as not part of the Salvadorian culture, and that is jaded and closed-minded. There's definitely not this whole thing of, you know, it's never a dull moment here. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't get the feeling that in spite of everything that's happened, that the people of this country are jaded. Which is a remarkable statement, really, because if there's ever a population that has a reason to be jaded, it's probably this one. And there is some skepticism. Like, people are kind of still,
like it everywhere.
They're like, is this real? Pinch me, is this a dream?
Yeah.
Like, there's still a bit of that, but that's not quite the same as being jaded, right?
No.
There's definitely a lot of hope and joy around finally being able to let your kids play at night in the street, being able to walk to the store without be living in fear. There's a lot of
running businesses and starting up businesses.
Yeah, like
without
we've met,
feeling, you know, extorted and whatnot.
Yeah, we've met some people who were previously living in some terrible conditions and who now, because of the crackdown, they've started their own businesses, they're pursuing degrees, they've improved their home, they're building a section under their home. They've gone from a very terrible living condition to a much better one that's fast improving. So there's definitely that sense of renewal and hope here in El Salvador. Religious, yes, the country is very Catholic and very, the part that isn't Catholic is very Protestant, very Christian. You can see it like on the buses, like there will be like Bible verses on the side of the bus.
Yeah.
and people have slogans like God bless El Salvador, with like a picture of the Virgin Mary, like deckled onto their cars and things of that nature. Yeah. And so, yeah, there's a lot of that family value, religious value, and also the hope and the sense of optimism for the future. It's all here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And question 12 is related to that.
Yeah.
What are family units like in El Salvador? Are people in long-term happy marriages, or is the divorce rate very high? Trying to gauge if the family bonds are strong in El Salvador. I guess Our experience seems to suggest that they are.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of, bigger families that all live, together, like
Yeah.
like 5
Generations.
generations in
Yeah.
one home.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we are human, so temptation does,
Yeah.
I would imagine,
Yeah.
is still
Yeah, the
here.
people here are not saints. They're not superhuman or better than anyone else anywhere else.
Yeah. So
but,
I'd imagine that there are certain incidences amongst family and
Yeah, but I think this question probably comes from an observation of the stark decline and decay of family values happening in much of the rest of the world.
yeah.
And it's probably trying to get at, is that also happening here?
Nope.
And yeah, I don't think it is. Yeah, there's not a sense at all that that decay has set in to El Salvador. So
No.
yeah, okay. So question 13. Is there anything negative that you haven't touched upon, such as addiction issues, homelessness, alcohol use that's an issue in El Salvador? Well, like, we don't hide the fact that this is a developing country, and it has all of the problems that you would expect from a developing country. There's a lot of poverty, and there's a lot of ancillary issues connected to poverty. But ironically, it feels like it's better than back home. We have seen a couple instances, like we saw a drunken, disorderly guy get escorted out of a food court. We've seen some people like
Some people are on the streets, like sometimes when you go to get groceries.
like lying on the sidewalk.
They look like
Yeah.
they've had a rough night, but
Yeah, there's that one guy who is by the Chivo ATM at the Mercado there in La Libertad. He doesn't have use of his legs, so that would certainly be a downer. And every time we walk by there and he's singing, and he reaches out his hand and he's asking for coins, right? Every single time. He's like a staple of that location.
Yeah.
But he's a genuinely nice man, and there's a warmth about him that it's not sad to see him. It's sad to see him in that state, obviously. You wish that there was something better for him. But he seems to have fit in a way that he's actually offering some joy into the world, the way he sings and smiles at people and receives their generosity. So it's not like the sad state that you would see in Vancouver with someone in the gutter with a needle next to them and things like that. It's a little different.
or tents outside of in parks.
Yeah, the tent cities that are popping up. Yeah,
But
terrible. Yeah. Okay. So, question 14. What are tax laws like for digital nomads or people who are there to set up businesses? Yeah, this is an enormous question that we don't have time to get to here. And also, we're not experts in that, so we probably don't want to mislead you. We're going to recommend that you head over to escapetoelsalvador.org, click the link down there, and reach out to Jeremy.
He's the guy.
He's the guy, especially when it comes to setting up businesses, and he can advise you as far as becoming a digital nomad. We can talk to you about that too, but it's just too extensive for one video. So reach out to us or reach out to Jeremy. You'll get your answer. Okay. Question 15. This is interesting. What is the government's approach to 5G deployment?
You can answer this one.
Okay, the technology, yeah. Well, there's no 5G coverage here yet, but it is coming. So a lot of the frequency bands, the RF bands that 5G requires, which were previously restricted by the government here in El Salvador, have been released to the private sector and now can be used. The head of the telecom regulator here has essentially promised that 5G is coming. He said, we're already in talks with the operators, that's Claro, Digicel, Tigo, and that there's going to be a major investment in the expansion of both 4G LTE and 5G networks here in El Salvador. So I saw an article about this recently in El Salvador News English. The link to that will appear in the description below if you want more information about that. And yeah, so check that out. It is coming. Yes. Okay. All right. Question 16.
We're really humming along here.
Yeah, we're getting into health stuff, it looks like. Yeah, health and disaster. Okay. So, question 16, what is the Western-style hospital infrastructure like for times when you might need to go for things such as broken bones or accidents, etc.?
I would say probably, and this is just, I guess, because where we come from, you have to wait a long extensive period of time. So I would imagine that the hospital infrastructure here is better than in Canada. Like, there are so many people out there who are saying, like, socialized medicine and whatnot is actually better. It's not.
Yeah, it's a mixed public-private system here, so there is sort of a socialized system that runs parallel to a private system, and as foreigners, we would access the private system. Back home in Canada, we had to wait 2 years to get a doctor in Nova Scotia.
And even then, it was a nurse practitioner.
Yeah, it wasn't a real doctor. It was a souped-up nurse is what we got to see. And his job really was to see if you really needed to see a doctor or not. So in essence, for the entire time we lived in Nova Scotia, we never had access to a doctor.
No.
Whereas here, you can walk into a clinic, you can pay $10, and you can get your diagnosis. And your prescriptions you take down to the pharmacia, and a majority of medications that we have seen have been the same price or lower than what we were paying in Canada for them without insurance. So the cost of healthcare, the accessibility of healthcare from our point of view has been a better experience than Canada. As far as more severe things like broken bones and accidents, we haven't thankfully had that experience.
Knock on wood.
However, we do have a friend, his name is Scott, and his father right now is in the hospital with a very serious GI infection. And he is getting state-of-the-art, top-notch care. And it hasn't bankrupted the family or anything like that. So yes, that being said, it is also true that the doctors here have said, let's fly him over to San Antonio, Texas, where hopefully he can be covered by some of the superior technology that they have up there. So I think we can summarize by saying the healthcare system here is accessible, it's affordable, but for high-tech, super cutting-edge stuff, you might be headed to the States to get that. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Question 17. What were the restrictions / requirements like there during the pandemic? Well,
we weren't here during the
no
pandemic.
No, we weren't.
But we were here shortly after, I guess.
Yeah, we were sort of shortly after. Yeah, we understand that the restrictions here were just as intense as anywhere else in the world when the pandemic first started, and no one knew what was going on, and everyone was terrified. But that El Salvador was one of the first places to let go of those restrictions and pivot on its advice.
Yeah.
Vaccines are available here, but the official government advice is get lots of exercise, get plenty of sunshine, go for a swim.
Eat lots of fruits and vegetables.
Yeah, do some yoga, read a book, de-stress.
Yeah.
This is the official recommendation of the government of El Salvador as far as fighting, let's say, respiratory viruses. Yeah. So that, to me, is another indicator that this government cares about freedom. It's willing to do what it needs to protect its people, but it's not willing to sacrifice the freedoms of the people at the altar of protecting them. That seems to be the case. So yeah, if you're thinking about that, as we were when we left, I think it's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Related question, number 18. So, why do so many locals still wear masks in all the videos? That's our videos. What are the masking policies like? Are people aggressive with each other for not wearing masks as they were from 2020 to 2022 in much of the world?
Well, the masking situation is pretty much like, you do whatever you feel right. People who wear masks, they don't glare at people who don't wear masks, and the people who don't wear masks don't glare at the people who wear masks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's no judgment here. They're like, you do what you want. It's mostly in the city anyway.
Yeah.
You may have a sporadic person here or there wearing a mask. And to be honest, like when you're driving in the city with all the bus fumes, maybe a mask is a good thing for not breathing in all the heavy bus fumes.
All the smog from the buses and the old cars and stuff. Yeah, maybe that's the reason.
Could be.
Yeah. But it seems like there's a live and let live kind of vibe here when it comes to masks. I remember back home in Canada, if we were outside and 30 feet away from anybody, not wearing a mask, you'd still get glares and people would be scowling at you. But nothing like that has happened here.
No.
No. Yeah. Okay. And as far as we know, there's no mandates of any kind. There might be some companies mandating, but not the governments. Okay. 19, this is interesting. What in the world happens in the case of a volcanic eruption? Is there a bubbling before the big boom so people can skedaddle? I love the way you worded that, a bubbling before the big boom and skedaddle. But we understand the concern, given what just happened in Turkey. And once again, we hope you're okay. You know what? It's a normal country. There are volcanoes here. We're on the Ring of Fire. But on top of the volcanoes, there's like sensitive scientific instruments up there that are keeping an eye on things.
Yeah.
And I imagine that all the warning that is technologically possible would be issued before a major eruption here in El Salvador. That being said, it seems like, the population is mostly centered around extinct volcanoes.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that.
Yeah. There are some villages at the base of active volcanoes, but it's not like a huge risk. Like we don't think there's going to be a lava flow coming over our heads anytime soon. So
the floor is lava.
yeah. Okay. Question number 20.
All right.
This
20.
is yes, 20. Question pregunta 20. We pray for the safety of Bukele and his cabinet always. Are you guys worried that certain coup-loving countries, I wonder who that could be, might try to interfere with El Salvador?
No, it's definitely something to be concerned about, but at this present time, I feel like certain said countries, or non-said countries, are cooking bigger fish right now than to really worry about what's going on down here.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I feel like because of El Salvador's recent growth in popularity, there could be a bigger concern for certain said countries.
Yeah. It's happened here before. The meddling here is a long history. The meddling in the foreign meddling in the politics here has a long and lengthy history. And certainly, as the world goes one way and El Salvador goes another way, as that gap widens, so does the incentive to quash what's happening here. So it is a concern. But, we thought about that before we left Canada. And I guess we look at it this way. In Canada, we are all but certain that there is one trajectory, and it's away from freedom, away from liberty, away from personal responsibility and having control of your own life. Whereas here, currently, the trajectory is toward all of those things, toward freedom and liberty and self-responsibility. There's no certainty that that trend will continue, but in Canada, there is certainty that it won't. So we made that decision based on that. We decided to come here based on that.
Yeah.
Are we certain? Did we have 100%? No, nothing in life is, but we know we have better odds and a better bet here in El Salvador. So that's the way we think about it. Yeah. All right, so there is a bonus question.
Dun,
Yay! Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. So they ask, what are the things that really gave you a very pleasant surprise? So things we were surprised about that we didn't expect here in El Salvador.
Probably the kindness and generosity.
Bang on.
Of what prize do I get a prize? No, the kindness and generosity of the people here who, opened their arms to us as, foreigners from a different country. People who are just willing to help you on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
Like, even when you don't ask for it, they will swoop in and be like, can I help you?
Yeah. Yeah, like we have met people just walking around the neighborhood who, without even being able to speak the same language, are able to connect with us with warmth and really genuine caring and interest in who we are and why we're here and what our lives are like. They want to know us, and that enables us to really want to know them, and the guard isn't up, right? In Canada, we went around everywhere with our guard up all the time. But down here, going around with your guard up feels like pathological behavior and not productive. So it took a while, but we had to actually drop our guards in order just to get along down here. And we were not expecting that to happen, to feel like a sense of belonging so quickly. Yeah, so thank you everyone.
Yes.
And
Okay.
thank you guys for your questions.
Yes.
So much. We hope that everyone found that useful. And if you have any additional questions, head on down to the comments below. Leave your question there. We'll aggregate them and put them together, and maybe we'll do another one of these videos. And also, don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button and the little bell to never miss another upload. Okay?
All right.
That's gonna do it.
Okay.
All right. Check us out on Odyssey. Check us out on Twitter and all that stuff you say on YouTube.
All right, guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye.